Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining Roll for Crit. Today, we are going to be joined by Roll a Crit, a company that is here for all your board gaming needs, not only in making a board game, but as well as how you look. I've been joined by Conrad Pflumm and Erin Zipperle. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So, for people who don't know what Roll a Crit is, why don't you actually start who you guys are?
Rollacrit is your new place that will have all the things you've ever wanted for tabletop collectibles and lifestyle come to life. We're here to shake up the industry a little bit and build out a little bit more of the collectible and lifestyle side of things while everyone's making dice and card sleeves and accessories. We're thinking that now when you have people come over for game nights, that you should have a D20 bowl to put your chips in and cool things for your room to kind of, geek it out a little bit more in the way, you can in the video game space and pop culture space.
All right. Well, how did you guys actually start? How did you decide, like, this is where I want to go? Like, not just with, if you go to their site, they do dice, but, I noticed a lot of apparel is definitely the first thing caught my eye.
Yeah. All right.
Well, I would say that the biggest thing that started us, right? So a lot of the company comes from Think Geek, and there was a lot of excitement about being able to step into the board game space but it was not something that Think Geek was ever really willing to do. And the passion and the community aspect of board games always kind of spoke to Erin and I. We've been playing board games together for years. We actually met in college and talked about going to days of nights together and buying our 3.5 editions and stuff like that. So which probably dates us, but ultimately, like it's just it's a space that we see a lot of opportunity in, because not only is it something that we're passionate about, but the people who are in that space are passionate about it. And we see a lot of crossover between that, where people want to showcase their hobbies. They want to be able to showcase what they're excited about, but they also want to do it in a way where it's not just a logo that's thrown on your shirt. They want to do it in a way where it speaks to the people who know what it is, and allows for kind of this subtle handshake to happen. But at the same time, if you are out and about in an audience of people that has no idea what it is that you're wearing, it doesn't stand out as just like, this is my board game shirt. So
right. Yeah, and really, that's what happened when Think Geek started in 1999. Couch co-op and things like that for video games were really popular, and they were still making them. And so building out your video game room was awesome, and it made a lot more sense. Pop culture is obviously a natural fix. Obviously, everybody has Star Wars rooms or whatever they want to do to build out their fandom, as I do myself. And there just wasn't that for tabletop, which is very confusing to me, because tabletop has never changed from people getting together playing tabletop. And so I don't understand why that didn't really exist. And so as couch co-op video games kind of went away, and now everyone's sitting, playing online by themselves with friends, and they're buying these $300 statues and all of this stuff, this gaming stuff that no one gets to see. That's where it kind of lost its luster, I think, when we got acquired by, or when ThinkGeek got acquired by GameStop. It's kind of when the idea came up and saying, well, I want to stay in the community-based thing. I think as video games kind of separate people a little bit more, I want to stay involved in engaging people again. And so the tabletop ideas that we had never came to fruition are things that we're trying to bring to life. As now it should, I'm hoping that the challenge of trying to get this into retail, trying to get this into hobby shops, where you have the dice and card sleeves and accessories, that on the other side of that aisle you'll get collectibles and things that you can kind of build out your game room with, to kind of show what your fandoms are, and have people that are impressed by the cool stuff you have, the cool, like, wall torch, sconce that is in your D&D room, and all the cool things that you can kind of build out, the bags that you have, and just things that, again, like what Conrad was saying, is the secret handshakes that isn't just like, I'm a gamer, but more of just, feeling comfortable in yourself to express yourselves in different ways. And that's what we're trying to attract: people that are very casual gamers, the people that are very extreme gamers, and try to build a community.
Bridge the gap.
Yeah, there you go. Which kind of is, we're the gateway gateway, hopefully, into the industry. So we just need to get the hardcore gamers really interested in what we're doing and start inviting more of the casual gamers in and convincing them that if you play Catan, you play Azul, you play some of the games that are a little bit more mainstream now, that you're a gamer and you'll like other games with the similar mechanics. Let's show you what those are rather than shutting them.
I mean, that makes perfect sense. I mean, depending on how I crop this video, but behind me you can see multiple video game references, but the one board game ones are two specifically designed to hang. Now, I do have a banner off to the side I haven't put up, that, but that's Magic the Gathering, which I feel has been like almost like D&D. Those two were able to do their own thing, both owned by Wizards. Like, that's why I think they even appeared at multiple PAX conventions before PAX Unplugged. But in terms of being like outside of maybe a D20 kind of deal, there wasn't very that, like the winking of a board game thing. Like that isn't just like you said, the logo pasted on a shirt. Something that it almost have to be in the know to understand the reference, but not like, I don't know, like play 5 games of level 20 D&D. Like you know what D&D is.
Yeah, exactly. And with Kickstarter being so prevalent, and you have these $5 million Kickstarters with these ridiculous games that come out into the field of, like, husband and wife came up with something that blew up, and now they have a publishing company, but they're by themselves and they're game makers. But they have fans that want to be activated. We're here to hopefully help that out and say, cool, well, we can help activate with some products that are built into your game that you don't even know are built into your game, that help people live into that world. You can hold a sword of whatever. You can buy a crown of whatever. The same, you could buy, all these prop replicas of video game things, and people spend all this money on these things. That's really cool because you feel like you're in that world. And so we want to try to bring people into the tabletop world specifically, which is what I hope you kind of see too in some of our Catan collection and stuff like that we've been working with Asmodee on, is not just putting a logo on a shirt, is kind of saying, if you lived in the world of Catan, like, what would that be like, and what would they wear, and what would kind of, I don't know, make you feel comfortable in that space.
Well, why don't we start there with Asmodee? I mean, there's always partnering up with a company, getting to get some of their licenses, but you got like the biggest fish. Saying you partner with Asmodee pretty much gives you access to almost any game you want. So, like, how do you decide? I mean, obviously, Catan makes perfect sense. It's most people's gateway game, arguably what started the golden age of board games. How do you decide, like, what games you're going to make merchandise for?
Well, I think part of it has to do with, one, whether or not there's an audience for it, right? Because, we are looking to do that is, a big focus of ours. But I also think it's also where we can show that there's really make a splash, I think is a good way to kind of look at it, right? And taking something that's been promoted as much as that game, and everybody sees it, it's very, like you recognize that brand. We got a chance to kind of bring our own unique flair to it and look at something that's been promoted before in a completely different way. So our first collection we did, the whole concept was kind of based around, like, if you went to a Catan gift shop, what would they sell? And that's like a just, being board gamers, and, I'm a big role player. Like, that's kind of how we do a lot of our brainstorm sessions. It's almost like trying to put ourselves like in an RP situation. So our whole line was our greetings from Catan line. And they were like postcard style designs of the different resources, but done very flowery and like, what would it feel like if you went into a tourist shop? What would they sell? Right. And then we kind of took that to the next level with our seaside resort, where we literally developed an entire resort essentially in our minds of what would be there for the port cities. And like so we have the ship and the sun in the background, so it's very recognizable at the same time. But it's got its tagline, relax, unwind, settle in. And if you didn't know that it was for that board game, you wouldn't get that. You'd probably just walk by and think that there's like some random resort that you've never been to in the world. But it's actually for this board game that doesn't actually exist. You know what I mean? So, like, those are the kinds of things that I think it gives us the ability to showcase our creativity, and the way that we want to approach this is very different than other people have in the past. And using that that license essentially is a great way for us to show that, because again, people, they think they know what to expect from it, and we can show them there's so much more. Our next collection, we're taking a similar approach to that, and kind of thinking about, again, what it would be like if you lived on it, but what would it be like if it was 2,000 years later, like it is in modern times? And what would it be like, if people were wearing certain apparel and stuff like that as well? Because yes, now the island is settled. What happened? So
Now, how much do you decide? Like, did you, when you partner with Asmodee, you're like, I'm doing Catan, or were they like, hey, you want to do Catan first? So it's like, how much leeway do they give you in terms of?
No, we led with Catan because, yes, Asmodee has a lot of games, but the way licensing works is that Asmodee is their publisher, and so they can publish the game, but also when it comes to things like Star Wars games, right? You have to kind of work with Star Wars for merchandise, and so some allow merchandise in that license and some don't. And so, it is a big menu of games, but ones that you can create product for, not as much. And for Catan, that's really, we ended up, or I ended up becoming friends with Ron Margin and Morgan, who ran Mayfair Games back in the day, and then was acquired by Asmodee, and to make Catan. And so they run Catan Studios now. And so from that, we were kind of connected to see what we could do to help further that line, because I was friends with them back in the Think Geek days. And so they knew what we can do with in-world stuff and trying to come up with really, things off the wall, because I'm sure you definitely find a lot of unlicensed Catan stuff everywhere on Etsy and Redbubble and things like that. And so it's hard to compete with what's already been out there. So we're trying to think out of the box of what's a little bit more innovative than gonna, I just went to Catan and all I got is a lousy. And so it's trying to expand that line and trying to get people used to what it is like to make product in that space, because we throw a lot of ideas and then it needs to get approved. And so a lot of the ideas, that aren't approved, we kind of shuffle around and see why and see where it kind of fits, because even though we have a vision, Catan, proper, I guess, has their vision as well, and they don't want to expand in certain places. So it's finding really our boundaries of where we can play, and go to those boundaries.
Yeah, it's been fun working with them, because they will tell you we push things a lot further than they probably have worked with people in the past. So, because again, it's just how we approach things. So we like thinking outside the box.
Now, I feel like we're talking a lot about like shirt patterns and things like that, but you also sell dice as well as, dice containers and stuff. Do you bring those up when you're like, we'll make like a special either die or dice bowl for a game that may or may not be already in the works with you guys?
Yeah, and that's kind of more of like where we're partnering and looking to develop in like the wholesale side of things, because obviously there's a lot more of an investment up front with running those kinds of items and stuff like that. And there's some really, really fun stuff we want to make sure to do as well. Rollacrit is completely self-funded between myself and Erin, so we're not like backed by some massive conglomerate and can just throw cash, unfortunately, because I'd love to be able to do that with some of all the projects that we have, but it's not the reality, you know what I mean? So we do have to kind of strike a nice balance between what we can do and what we want to do. And sometimes there's some things that when we look at it all together, we might want to actually, do something like dice, but there's another project that's going to be a little bit more close to heart for us, and I think make a little more splash about that space as well. Plush is definitely something we're exploring. Are you going to show it? Yeah, but this is a prototype that we have that's going out in our deck. So we made a sad desert tile plush.
Little Robert, teardrop.
Oh, that's brilliant.
So like that's a good example of where, yeah, we could do something like dice, but again, that's very mainstream. You know what I mean? And we like to look at things differently. So we think about how we can take a resource that no one's gotten to squeeze before, and also maybe the lowest on the totem pole, which is the desert. So
we have great dice factories. Yeah, because they made the plush, and so we're like, well, they didn't make the desert. And so I think that we also are trying to build a community, which is, and this will sound weird, but we have our own dice factories that are great. And, we're going to keep producing dice that we want to produce, which is a lot of fun. But when it comes to other dice companies, we want to, because we want to build a community, we want to make sure that we can help promote those companies as much as we can as well. Because when it comes to someone else making, the stuff that we're making, that's a little different. But I think in the space where, Level Up or Die Hard Dice and things like that, like we want to partner with these people to make things as addition to what they provide. We want to help make sure that if you come in through us and you're just a normal Catan player and now you want to see what other games are out there, that we're not content creators, we're not really telling you or gatekeeping you to certain somethings. We're just giving you the option of, here are all the places you can go, and here's all the different levels of things you can try out, and try to make that as accessible as possible. In the same kind of theory that, ThinkGeek did, where, they bought a lot of product from a lot of different places that we could have just made ourselves, but we bought them. Now, again, Conrad said that we're self-funded, so we don't have the freedom of just filling up warehouses full of stuff. But eventually it'd be great where if we're not the company to make something, but someone did a really good job on a specific product in the space as the collectibles grow, that's great. We'll do everything we can to help with that, because again, it's more community based that has that merchandising function around it as well.
So, are you thinking of growing your store to be more of a place you can go to get more than just your own brand or other things? Or is it just focusing on your brand? Because I know, barring when ThinkGeek, thank you. Wow, my brain just was like, but before they got bought by GameStop, like they had a whole variety of things, not to mention some of their own weird things, especially when April Fool's hit, where I felt like you can just find whatever your niche was. You might find something weird that you wouldn't expect, but I don't know if it was all under their brand.
Yeah,
I mean,
so
go
ahead.
We have multiple decks of things of product that we want to make, right? And so if we don't see a licensed version of something, if we don't see something that we can say, okay, let's make this specific product because of X, that's the stuff where we're trying to look like, again, a D20 bowl for your game nights. Like that doesn't need to be licensed. That doesn't need to go through that. That could be a Rollacrit product. And so it's the same kind of spread that, we did at ThinkGeek, where it's just, there's a lot of in-house stuff that we made ourselves that don't need to have a license to it. It's just this product doesn't exist itself. And then there's going to be those things specifically like the plush and things in that world that we'll be making for that. So it'll be a mix. I think that the way we are spending our time right now is pretty evenly throughout everybody. I think the most product we've made for anybody is obviously GenCon, and that'll continue to be something that we have to continue building that store for. But as we partner with people like Asmodee and other publishers, we also are very interested in working directly with communities. So just like GenCon, any kind of online communities that we can build content for or build a product for, so that they can worry about what they do best and we can go and build that product for them, rather than them trying to figure out how to warehouse stuff and manufacture things, that we can kind of be that resource. And so you'll see our partnerships grow, hopefully pretty shortly, with more communities that we can kind of bring into the fold and be the store for.
Well, speaking of Gen Con, how does that work when, for example, your katana, I assume, is going to be a bit more evergreen that you see on the store. In Gen Con, each time you have to design it knowing that that product has almost a shelf life. I mean, I'm sure there might be some people who want it, but really you're designing the 2022 Gen Con shirt.
Something in there, yeah.
No, and you're absolutely right. So it definitely keeps us busy, and but again, it speaks to what we really are passionate about, right? Like that's the largest tabletop convention in North America. It's the longest running in North America, and being able to connect with people on a face-to-face basis now it's going to be our second year as the Gen Con store. It's been a blast working on a lot of these ideas and trying to figure out ways to continue to represent like what our style is, because we want that to have a feeling. We want Rollacrit to have a feeling even when we're working through our partners, right? So there's definitely been a shift, I think, from what was presented with the Off-Worlds era, where it was their style, and they were able to do that because they were the original Gen Con store. And when they retired in 2020, we were lucky enough to be able to come in and work with them. Last year was definitely a mad dash, and Sorry, 2021. Yeah, last year was a mad dash that I completely blacked it out and forgot it happened. So,
Look, the last few years are sort of like 1 year and also 10 years at the same time. I think we can all agree
Right.
No,
on
I
that.
know. I think it's all just meshed in. But we had we signed a deal with them. We had 4 months to throw the entire show together and make all the product for it during a time where I'm sure you've heard on the news, but when it comes to shirt blanks and things like that, just any raw materials, they don't really exist very easily anymore, and everything is at a premium. So, it went from virtual to physical pretty quickly. And the virtual, we're like, yeah, we could definitely pull this off. And when we went physical, we're like, okay, what do we do? And so, I think that I'm hoping that everybody was happy with what we did last year, and I think that so far, through that, people have at least talked to me, straight up that it's impressive what we did in the time that we had, but we're trying to do what we can to listen to fans as well for those spaces. Is that we feel that there's a certain style that we want to portray and bring out, but we also need to obviously appease what the fans are looking for and what they aren't getting, and try to fill that gap. The team has been growing here, so we have a new community manager in that's hoping that we can hope to engage a lot more with attendees, especially for GenCon, to see specifically what people are looking for, seeing if we can kind of almost do like which one of these shirt styles is better, like that kind of, trying to be a little bit more involved the way Off-World was, because I think that's really where they got, the respect that they had from being that vendor for so long, was that they listened to customers, and we want to be able to do the same thing, because we can make sure we love all we want, but if no one wants it, that's not ideal for anybody. But yeah, it's been an experience through
and
pandemic times.
Because to your original question, right? Because we're already in that mindset with all of the things that we want to do as far as developing hardline goods, GenCon is a natural fit to our process, right? Because they're the same thing. While timing is very specific, because obviously the convention happens when the convention happens, so a lot of things have to fall in together as far as getting all the product at the same time to the show. We make product. That's what we do. So having to develop products for GenCon regularly, that's what we're good at. And we're excited to keep doing that with them, because we think that there's going to be a lot of opportunities to grow their brand as much as our brand alongside each other. And as Erin mentioned, like being able to put this all through the focal point of the community. These communities are people that are in the space that we want to be in anyway.
Right.
Like we want to be interacting with these people, regardless of whether or not we're interacting with them as GenCon, because that is who our base is. People who are enthusiastic enough to get in their cars and drive all the way there to experience a weekend together and just geek out on awesome tabletop and board game stuff. Like it's a great environment. So
yeah. And to do that, I feel like we need to be, trusted to be welcomed at the table, and I think this community isn't as passive as some other communities where you can just, make something, promote it out, and eventually enough people will buy it. This is very, there's a lot of money that goes into tabletop. There's, you can make the choice of, do I want to buy a $60 game, or do I want to buy a $60 bag? That I could
trick question. It's both.
Yeah.
Exactly. You're like one of our pins this year.
Exactly.
Well, on community, I'm just curious then, is there anything you've noticed that is different when you worked at ThinkGeek, which I would say is you probably catered more to a video game and or TV show community? When this, I mean, I'm sure there's overlap, of course. I don't think board gamers don't watch TV or anything. But is there different desires, different ways they react to certain products, things you've maybe learned from the way that community acted in ThinkGeek that you brought here?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's like I was saying before, is that I can make a Star Wars shirt, and eventually enough people will buy it because it's a Star Wars shirt. I think that these fan bases are a little bit more. You need to get into these fan bases. So even though we make stuff for Catan, I guarantee you, only 5% of people that play Catan even know we have product for it. And so that's the challenge, is where to find the people to be invited in. There's a lot of, closed knit communities. There's a lot of, it's a tighter knit group. And so I think that what it was like in ThinkGeek in 1999 to get into these groups, a lot of it was through just forums and chat rooms to let people know, hey, there's a really cool geeky shirts at this website that build out organically. Now the internet's so vast and there's so many places to kind of show what you have, it's harder to get into those. So it's really enough fans need to trust that you have their back, and enough people need to trust that we know what we're talking about in this space and that we're also fans ourselves. And then see that, because we've also had comments that we're a larger company than we are. We're not. so we're very much like, we need, fans to enjoy what we're doing, to pull us in, and I think accept us at the table so that everybody else can be told organically where we are. I feel that the difference is paying for ads and paying for marketing is not the same in tabletop as it is in mass.
And I think it's because people also don't know to look for it yet.
Right.
That's like, it goes back to what we were saying at the beginning is, people, it's not something that people in this space have top of mind because it's not really been there. You've had the games, you've had, like I said, very basic approaches to apparel and stuff like that, which are more logo slaps and whatnot. But and pins, I think, are also a really solid aspect of tabletop conventions when people go there. But all of the extra stuff that can be done, and in our opinion should be done, it's not top of mind yet. So it's just letting people know in a way that also doesn't come off as like the creepy salesman, where it's just like, buy our stuff over here, you know what I mean? Like, so
and that's why people collect dice. Yeah, I mean, I feel like there's nothing else to collect. Is that you collect your games, your game libraries is impressive and something you can show people, because even though you're doing it for yourself, there's still that part where you want to show that off, right? And so you want to have that awesome dice collection too. And so, beyond dice, what else can you collect? And that's what we want to make, those options.
I mean, that's always greatly appreciated. I know for me, because one, maybe I have bought already too many t-shirts to begin with, but I often do feel like I want to wear something that I feel doesn't just seem like I look like a NASCAR driver.
Right.
And that's when I appreciate shirts that look like they put a little bit more time and work into the design, which may be why people think you're bigger. Though I feel like that's a thing in board games. Like I think certain companies like, oh, they have a successful game, they must be pretty big. No, they've got like 5 guys.
yeah, exactly.
So
we're all working, not like all night and all day. But it's still, it's, if you have a lot of effort through that, you're right. It's not letting something pass until everybody's happy with it. If you see some of our Slack channels, it's extensive for one design. It's like, okay, we've been talking about this for a week now. Let's just get it on a shirt, please.
I can get that mindset. I've done it with myself. But speaking of what you're talking about with board game collections, you decided to put that feather in your cap as well by actually releasing a board game. Just last year, I believe you did the Kickstarter.
That's right. Yeah, it'll be the Kickstarter will have started a year in June, so coming up very soon. And it was an interesting thing because internally, one, being new to the space, we had no idea what the response was going to be from people. But we put a lot of effort into getting the word out there that it was going to be starting, and apparently we did a very good job at letting people know. And also, the game itself, I think, is a big contributing factor because it's such a Rollacrit approach to what a board game would be, because it's a dungeon. You could say, hey, Heroes of Barcadia, it's a dungeon crawler tile based board game, and as we like to say, it's a liquid life total system. Or you could, tell people what the game actually is, which it's a fun party game to play with your friends. and that's about really as heavy as the game needs to be, because it's unique where you actually have your character or your miniature, whatever you would normally be moving around a game, is a cup, and it's got liquid filled in it to represent your life. And as you travel through all of these hilarious punny rooms, you take damage more than likely at some point and have to drink your health. And if you put in there whatever you want, that's up to you. So we ultimately decided that this would be a great game to kind of just show that there's, one, a different way to look at a system that people hadn't really looked at before, and two, to also showcase a lot of the things that we like to do, which is make product. And here's all these accessories that you can do along with it. And it's a great way for us to kind of shown, especially with a lot of these other people having success on Kickstarter, that you can already start thinking about activating your fans and being able to get them these awesome products that they've already shown they're interested in because they backed your game. But people don't think about it like that. So when we set the goal at 50,000 as our funding goal, and then we ended at 1.25 million, we were very, very excited. So things, 30 days later, we were just, but it really does, I think, a great job of showing all that stuff. Like we were talking about how the coin of conflict resolution is something we designed for the game. And it's a coin that just says, I drink or you drink. Like that is a game mechanic that you can use, but you could just use that in day-to-day life sometimes. You know what I mean? Like you just carry that coin around you and settle a dispute.
I'm now just imagining you taking the coin to random people and just be like, all right, go.
Hey, and it's a 50-50.
Go ahead, I'm sorry.
No, but I also want to point out too, the glasses that came out of that campaign were completely community driven. We had no intention of making glasses for this game because they were, knowing what the market is for materials and knowing what shipping rates cost and stuff like that, building glasses, it can be very expensive. But the community themselves said constantly throughout this campaign, we want to see glasses. So during the campaign, we were able to actually source, develop, design, and create these glasses. And sure enough, it was a great example of us being able to listen to the fans and make something happen because that's what they wanted. And now there's literally thousands of people that will be getting these glasses delivered to them because a bunch of people wouldn't stop talking about it.
Right, yeah. There was a lot of, that was the craziest month because it was just working day and night trying to source things, and so we were trying to talk to the community at the same time. It was like, hey, well, I'm on the phone with China right now trying to figure out how to make this happen. Like we're trying to make this work, but yeah, like Conrad was saying, is putting glass into the game would have made the game super expensive, beyond something that I think people would buy, and then also just very fragile shipping and also very heavy shipping, so it was just added to the cost. But now what's good about the glasses that we did is we launched the Kickstarter at Thirsty Dice as a partner of ours in Philadelphia as a board game cafe. And so they liked the game so much that they were like, we'd love to have this in our cafe and it should be a board game cafe game. And I said, it's very true. So we made them industrial dishwashers safe, which is insane to do, but they are flawless. Let's just say that. So they
look great.
Yeah, they're crazy. And even the plastic the plastic cups that it does come with, I think I know more about plastic than I ever needed to learn. But it's important when it comes to alcohol in a glass too. Being able to not break down over time, and also being able to fall off a table without breaking, and then that destroys your game. And so that was important to me, is also just making sure it's tested correctly. But I just want to be clear too that I don't drink very much. Neither does most of Rollacrit and as a whole. And so that's where, some of the objections we did get was like, it's a drinking game, but that's why we call it like a life system, because there's drinking puns in it. But, I think more of the times I played the game, I played it without alcohol just because I can be a lot more strategic when I can think. And so I can screw people over a lot better with loot cards. But it was definitely a great intro in as a gateway game to get people to play, because the amount of people that have played this game now can realize that the mechanics of this game are very similar, or can be translated into other games where, it's a tile-based dungeon crawler game. That sounds scary to a lot of people, but once they played it and they realize that now you can play other games like this, but it has more content in it and a little bit more copy in it and stuff like that, so you have to be a little bit more strategic, it's not as scary to them to join in. The product, Conrad was saying too, is very important to us since everything is waterproof, and figuring that out, because there is no factory that really knows how to make PVC waterproof cards that you could print on very easily. And so that was an engineering feat. So there's a lot of things we didn't think we were going to run into as a problem. So it's been exciting to make it, and I can't wait to get it out into market.
Well, it sounds like at the very least you're able to solve most of those problems.
Oh yeah.
To have solutions
very quickly as humanly possible, with all the things, with the factory shutting down and months at a time, and shipping being what it is.
Oh, shipping. I feel like,
yes,
I can't wait to still be talking about that 10 years from now.
Listen,
I hope it was. Remember when shipping was so high? I hope that's
yeah.
But unfortunately, I don't think it'll be that.
Yeah.
Now, do you think you're going to continue your game library, so to speak, or this just be like, we have a game, this is it?
Honestly, I think with Heroes of Barcadia, we had to cut down the characters we put in there, to be 6, and that's why we did the 2 additional as the party pack, so you can go up to 8 players. The amount of characters we have and cups and things that we could do to build onto that game is extensive. The amount of settings we could put that game into and puns that we can come up with is extensive. And the amount of licensing opportunities too, I think, is also going to be pretty extensive once we get this into retail. But I think we want to put a lot of effort in this game, unlike because we're not a publisher or a traditional publisher that needs to come out with the next game to stay alive. We're going to be putting out product and things like that.
Mhm.
That's our core goal. But our goal for Heroes of Barcadia is to give it a lot more content, give it a lot more legs, and see how many people we can get in the hands of. Because for an experienced gamer, it's a lot of fun. You'll learn the game in 5 minutes and be able to play it all the time. It's a great game to play before you run your D&D session. We'll have it out on Roll20 as well. So if you're not, with friends for a party game, that'll be a party game on Roll20, which will be interesting. There's just tons to be able to bring your character cup, is what we're hoping, that you could bring into the game and have like, I bought this character that has this ability, which is different when you have a mixed group of friends. And so that, I think, is going to be interesting for casual players and experienced players alike to really sink their teeth into.
Well, that's great to hear. And obviously, the bigger the better for any company. I'm always hoping that our board game community grows. Anything else you want to maybe hint at and let people know that may be coming down the pipeline to the store that they could be excited about?
I mean, we have our GenCon. So GenCon is coming up soon. So we'll be launching our collection, relatively soon around that. So people can start getting some stuff that they can wear to the show if they want to beforehand. As I mentioned earlier, we have a Catan collection that we'll be releasing in the near future as well to kind of expand that lineup. And we've put out a few Rollacrit designs recently, both enhancing some of our dice collection and some unique parody stuff, I would say, which is a little bit more Rollacrit-esque. And it really gives a different feel, I think. So if you check out our site at rollacrit.com, you'll see all of that stuff there that you can kind of shop through as one location. So definitely keep your eyes open on that, because we continue to be adding through all of our different channels.
All right. Well, this has been a long time coming, obviously. Rollacrit, Roll for Crit. Perfectly to actually finally meet
Match
together.
made now.
We did.
And thank you so much, everyone, for tuning into this. And thank you guys again for joining me. Please don't forget to not only check out their site, but at GenCon, check out their new GenCon shirts and also play the game when it comes out. Yeah, with shipping, I don't even want to try to put a date because you never know when something annoying is going to go down. But hopefully this year. Thank you, everyone.
Yes.
Okay. We can pretty safely say that, at least, right?
Yes,
This year?
absolutely, yes.
All right. Great. So let us know if you've ever bought anything, or are you excited to play their game. You can let us know in the comments down below. Thank you so much. I'm Will, and this has been Roll for Crit.